But it's again, it just tells the story of it's the evil and the ugliness of people's hearts these days is everywhere.
This is Franky Rose's Think Tank. Here's your host, Franky Rose.
Sorry, I don't know what I just did there. So welcome, tankers. I turned it off instead of keeping it where it was. Go figure. So good morning, good morning, good morning. We're going to take a look at part 9 of Ethan Crumbley's Miller hearing. That is too funny. I'm not getting these things to work either right now. So yeah, it's a morning issue. So let's see where we're at here. If you have not seen the previous 8, you're probably going to want to. There is a lot of information in there. So take a look at the other 8 episodes when you're done this and get all the info you can. It's pretty amazing what is left out in Jennifer Crumbley's trial. So here we go.
Thank you. Doctor, you're going to walk towards this way. You're going to stand in the witness box and then face my clerk to be sworn, please.
Just raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you swear or affirm the statements you're about to make to this court will be the whole truth? Yes. Thank you. Please have a seat.
Thank you. And doctor, if you could please keep your voice up for me.
Okay.
Sound tends to fall in this courtroom, so please keep your voice up. If you could please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My full name Fariha. Last name is Qadir.
Thank you. That being said, defense, you're a witness. And again, ma'am, if you could please keep your voice up for me.
Yes. Doctor, I know it's not an easy position to be in, but if you could just keep your voice up just so that we can make a perfect record of this, okay? Because
Okay.
It's being recorded.
I will try my best.
Can you give us your name one more time? You don't need to spell it, just state it.
Fariha Qadir,
All right. And where are you currently employed?
Easter Seals of Michigan.
All right. And what type of establishment is Easter Seals?
It is Oakland County through Oakland County Health Network. It is a non-profit organization.
And again, I'm sorry, ma'am, but if you could just raise your voice for me a little bit more.
It's okay to almost yell. And what type of services does Easter Seals provide?
It's mental health services in the Oakland County.
And to hold the position that you currently do working at Easter Seals, what type of education did you have?
I'm a medical doctor and trained as a psychiatrist.
And where did you go to school?
My basic medical school is from Rawalpindi Medical College, Pakistan. And my residency training is from Wayne State University School of Medicine.
And how long have you been employed at Easter Seals?
8.5 years.
Prior to Easter Seals, did you work anywhere else?
Yes, I was working in a private sector, more like privately employed.
Yes, and again, please keep your voice up. I'm sure my staff is having a hard time, and my staff is indicating, yes, we are not catching your voice for the recording. And so what happens is,
So this here is a short one. So I will see what's going on, and I just might do the 10th one later on today.
if the transcript is made of this later on, it will say inaudible. It will not catch anything that you're saying. So it's very important that you keep your voice up for me, please.
May I approach the water to see if that helps?
Absolutely.
All right. What is your current position or title at Easter Seals?
I'm a psychiatrist.
How many patients do you currently see?
Maybe a total of about 300.
How
Wow.
is it that you became involved with Ethan Crumbley?
So for Easter Seals is contracted to work at the Oakland County Jail, and I'm the psychiatrist who is appointed to be working at the Oakland County Jail. So that's how I see him.
Do all of your patients, are all of your patients housed in the Oakland County Jail, or do you have some that are not?
No, I have some of my patients outside of jail also.
So you stated that obviously there's a contract with the Oakland County Jail through Easter Seals. How are you made aware that there is an inmate that needs your services?
So we work with the counseling department of the Sheriff's County, and they have their initial intakes, the counseling department, and based on their intakes, the mental health background, they refer patients to us.
So is that what was done here with Ethan Crumbley?
Yes.
And if you need to refer to your notes, please pull them out. Do you know the date of your first visit with Mr. Crumbley?
That was December 3rd, 21.
I'm sorry, what was that, ma'am?
December 3rd, 2021.
Thank you.
The visits that you do with Ethan, are they in person or over Zoom?
They are over Zoom.
And when you do these visits, is he in his cell or somewhere else?
In his cell.
When you initially began seeing Ethan, is it your understanding that he was on something called constant watch or suicide watch?
Yes, he was on constant watch.
And what does that mean?
Basically, somebody who is at high risk to harm himself or others. So that's when they are on the watches, and constant is the highest level.
And when someone that you're seeing is on constant watch, does that mean you see that patient more frequently?
Yes, we see them every day.
So after you first made contact with Ethan, December 3rd of 21, do you know how many days it was that you saw him every single day?
I cannot remember exactly, but it was at least 2 weeks, or if not more than that. I can look at my records.
Sure, if you want to refer to your records, that would be great. Once you've had a chance to review that, just let me know.
And have these been marked in your binder?
I am not entering them as an exhibit, Your Honor.
Thank you.
It will take me a couple of minutes because I have to look at the dates.
While you look, ma'am, after the constant watch, how often did you then begin to see Mr. Crumbley?
Once a week.
So is your testimony that after the constant watch period in December, you have seen Mr. Crumbley once a week since then?
Yes. Yes.
Were you able to locate the date?
So far I'm looking at that the whole month of December, I
Okay.
was seeing him as a constant watch.
All right. Now, when you have your visits, what do they look like? Is the patient or inmate given a time, and they're provided the tablet, and you are on the other side of the Zoom, or how does that work?
So usually at the jail, I have my patients scheduled back to back. For him, there is a certain day fixed, but there is no time fixed. So whenever his turn comes, then I will see him.
Now, what is your role once you're assigned a patient? What is your duty?
So usually the first meeting is to basically evaluate. The first meeting is a little bit more in detail, where you are trying to find out about their past mental problems or the current ones, a little bit of family history. And once after that is done and a diagnosis is established, then you decide if they need any help, any treatment. So that's usually the first visit. And after that, the follow-ups are based on just basically management of the current mental health.
And you're saying usually, were those the steps that you took with Ethan?
Yes.
So in that first visit that you stated occurred on December 3rd of 2021, how did that visit go? What do you start with?
It was a normal visit. It is mentioned in my records that he was cooperative. He gave me the history, what I was trying to find out. And at that time, I was mainly focused on how is he doing at that time, rather than going too much into the background. And he was generally cooperative. There was some background history as well, and he was generally cooperative, and he provided me with information.
Can you explain to us what type of background information you ask?
Because I'm evaluating for all types of mental health issues that may have happened. So it usually starts with when was the first time you experienced any of the issues, because he mentioned depression. So that's I asked that how long he has been feeling depressed, how long ago when it got worse. So those are the questions I asked.
Okay. Do you ask about hallucinations?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And did you ask Ethan about his hallucinations?
Yes, I did.
And did he give you any information?
Yes. What is mentioned in my records from that time is that he talked about having two types of voices. He called them one internal and one external. External, he would refer to as a very fleeting external voice, which does come and go. It is a voice that does not interfere much in his daily life. And the other thoughts he called as my internal thoughts, which are more significant and which I cannot get rid of. And they had gotten worse about 2 weeks before the incident.
In that first meeting, are you trying to assess if someone is either suicidal or having suicidal ideations?
So what do you guys think? Shouldn't some of this been in Jennifer Crumbley's trial? Is there a reason? Do you think that it wasn't? And do you think it's going to be in his dad's trial? Because I honestly do believe some of this should have made it into that trial.
Yes.
And did you ask him questions about that?
Yes, I did.
And what was his response?
So he was with that first meeting, he was actually on a constant watch because he was on a suicide watch as well, because he mentioned that he was suicidal.
So based on that first meeting, the background, as well as current symptoms that he was experiencing, do you diagnose someone immediately, or do you establish like a care plan for continuing care?
So we do make a diagnosis, which we can call like a provisional diagnosis that could change over time if we are getting more information. But in his case, I did make a diagnosis of depression at that time.
Now, in all of the visits that you described, is it an inmate's choice to participate in these visits, or how does that work?
In the normal world, it is the choice. Even in the jail, it is a choice, definitely. But in his scenario, when he's on a watch, it could be, I would say they have to, but choice is always there.
So in these multiple visits that you have had now close to 2 years, does Ethan participate?
Yes, he does.
Can you describe what the signs and symptoms of major depression disorder is?
So basically, this is major depression is a mood disorder. The main two symptoms that a person should have is either a depressed mood or a loss of interest in the normal activities in life. So these are the two compulsory elements that one should have. And along with that, it can be associated with a few other things like sleep problems, appetite problems, low energy, concentration, guilt, hopelessness, and thoughts of death.
And did Ethan express a number of the things that you just described that are symptoms of major depression disorder?
Yes, he did.
Can you describe what?
You know, these parents were getting really good signals that Ethan's mental health was going down, and makes me wonder, had he have gotten the help he needed if any of this would have happened? All he needed, I think, is for somebody to believe that he was being truthful, because honestly, everything that we have heard leads to absolute depression, and the hearing voices, I don't think that is, but I don't know.
What anxiety is?
Anxiety is more of a fear of something bad happening to you, and your body reacts in a different way. It is more that you're more present as you're worried about things, you have thoughts on your mind, you are overwhelmed by those thoughts, and your body can react in a certain way, like physical symptoms. People have anxiety and panic attacks in response to that higher level of stress. Those anxiety and panic attacks are normally people describe as feeling a chest pressure, chest pain, shortness of breath, a feeling of impending doom, something bad is happening to you. So these are usually called anxiety or panic attacks, and that's a rough description.
Okay. And what you just described that encompasses the word anxiety are those things that Ethan has described throughout your meetings?
Yes.
In looking at your reports, I think in almost every visit, there's something called a PHQ-9 score. Can you explain what that is?
So this is a standardized testing we usually use as a part of our evaluations. It could be a part of every evaluation. This is a standardized testing sort of where it is scored.
So we know that a lot of this really was happening to Ethan. It makes me wonder, as far as his mom goes, why was he not willing to go speak at her trial? He said he would take the fifth through the whole thing. What do you think that is all about? Because I find that odd. I find it really odd.
And we present them with a certain set of questions which are similar what I described earlier about depression. Similar questions: are you having, how are you sleeping, or your appetite? Those are different questions, and we score it in a certain way. And then the score tells mild, moderate, severe, the level of depression.
Okay. So based on the responses to those questions, there's then kind of a rubric to determine where the person falls. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is this a test or evaluation that you have consistently performed on Mr. Crumbley?
Yes, from time to time.
Would you agree with me that when you first performed the test in February of 2022, you scored him in the moderately severe, which then after that says active treatment, psychiatrist, and therapy?
It is. I can confirm from my notes, but if this is what is written, then that's what it is.
Okay. And what does that score mean, moderately severe?
So moderately severe means that the symptoms that are discussed or described, they are present on most of the days. So how this we categorize is that those symptoms are either not present at all, or they are present sometimes every day, or almost some days, or almost every day. So this is how the severity goes up.
And isn't it true that after a few months of these weekly visits and therapy, he's now been scored at mild?
Yes.
And can you describe what that mild range is?
It's the same thing, that basically those symptoms have decreased in intensity and severity and the frequency.
What is Mr. Crumbley's diagnosis?
Right now, I have major depressive disorder, severe, and adjustment disorder with anxiety.
Can you describe what adjustment disorders with anxiety is? I know you described anxiety, but can you describe the adjustment disorders portion of that?
So usually we call adjustment disorder when same symptoms are in response to a certain stressor in your life. So a major depression can be without a stressor, but adjustment disorder is usually in response to something happen in your life, like a loss in your life or any other trauma in your life. So that's when describe it. And it has to be related to that stressor, and it usually should resolve when the stressor is gone.
And were you able to determine what that stressor was?
So if I remember correctly, the time I added this diagnosis was when he reported having more anxiety symptoms at a certain time. It was not right in the beginning. It was somewhere in the last year, late last year, I think. Most probably around the time when he had another big court hearing coming up, around that time that his anxiety was getting worse, and that's when we diagnosed.
And these diagnoses, again, are in response to the symptoms that Ethan has described and also the symptoms you've been able to observe, correct?
Yes.
Have you prescribed medication to Ethan?
Yes.
Do you know his current medications?
He is on Prozac. He is on hydroxyzine and trileptal.
Okay. Can you describe what each of those medications are responsible for?
So
Okay, I have a question here. So, are you really allowed to tell an open court what kind of medications a person's on? Like, isn't there some kind of confidentiality there? I was just a little surprised to see her list those off.
Prozac is the main antidepressant that he takes. So basically, it is supposed to help with the depression, but it does take care of the anxiety as well. Hydroxyzine we started to use mainly initially to help with sleep. But at the same time, it has some anxiety benefits as well. So we are using it for both of those reasons. And the third medication, Trileptal, it comes under the category of what we call a mood stabilizer. That was to help with some of his anger episodes that happened.
I'm sorry, you said anger episodes that happen?
Yes.
Thank you.
And let's talk a little bit about that. If there is an anger episode, are those things that he tells you about?
Yes.
Have you adjusted and added medications by what he tells you and what you observe?
Yes.
In looking at your records, I believe that Ethan had agreed to take medication in the beginning, and then there was a period of time that he didn't like how he was feeling and he stopped. Is that correct?
Yes.
Currently, he is on those 3 medications that you described, correct?
Yes. Yes.
You know how long it has been since he agreed to again start taking medication?
The first time he agreed was after October of last year when we started the Prozac.
Okay. So October of 2022, moving forward.
Yes, but that was the Prozac. The one that we tried before was prior to that. So that would be maybe 2 or 3 months before that.
Okay. So the initial medication that you gave him was something different than what he's currently on, correct?
It is the same class as Prozac, but just a different medication.
Different medication. And at the jail, I know there's multiple ways to receive medication. I know especially with mental health medications, you can get an injection or you can take a daily pill. Are the medications that you just described something that Ethan takes by mouth or something that is injected?
Oh, these are all by mouth.
And obviously an inmate can refuse to take a medication if they don't want to take it, correct?
Yes.
At this time, are you receiving the report that Ethan is taking his medication daily?
Yes.
The medication that you just prescribed, is this medication available in the community if someone was having the same or similar symptoms but not in a jail facility?
Yes.
Are the signs and symptoms that Ethan is suffering from manageable with appropriate treatment and medicine?
Yes.
I want to go over some of the things that you do during your sessions. You have taught coping techniques, correct?
Yes.
You have taught him breathing techniques.
That is more through his counselor, but yes, we have talked about it.
You encourage eating.
Yes.
You encourage exercise.
Yes.
You encourage bathing or taking care of your physical appearance.
Yes.
You encourage him to read, to occupy his time.
Yes.
You provide support and education.
Yes.
You provide encouragement.
Yes.
And you provide insight and support, correct?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. People cross.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Kadir. Dr. Kadir, you have not diagnosed the defendant as psychotic, is that correct?
No.
And
I'm
if
sorry.
you have, you would have.
That's a double negative. Could you rephrase your question?
She has not diagnosed the defendant as psychotic.
Correct.
I
Her
said the answer is yes.
You
Right.
have, I'm sorry.
I have not diagnosed
Thank
him
you.
as.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, thank you for making that clarification. Okay, and if you had, you would have noted that in your reports, correct?
Say that again?
If you had diagnosed him, you would have put it in your report.
Yes.
And you would have prescribed him medication for that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you talked about this question of hallucinations, but in fact, he told you these voices, they're not directing you to do anything evil, right?
Yes.
And he talked about having some internal voices, but when you visit with him, he's not responding to internal stimuli.
Yes.
Great, okay. Doctor, you have seen this defendant over 100 times, right?
I guess.
And, well, we counted them, let's say 102, give or take. And each visit is about 15 minutes or in that ballpark?
About 50.
Okay, so you would have spent about 25 hours with him over a really pretty extended period of time.
Yes.
Okay, since he got to the jail.
Yes.
And you saw him first every day or every 3 days, and then once a week
Yes.
since then.
Yeah.
And you're not aware of the underlying facts of this case. You're not aware of the underlying facts of how this defendant committed the crimes,
No, I'm not.
how he killed the victims, or what led up to that, or his writings,
No.
any of that.
No.
And you're not certified as a forensic psychiatrist, correct?
No, I'm not.
That's a different specialized area.
Yes.
And so your role is not to evaluate this defendant in the crime, it's to assist him with his symptoms
Yes.
at the jail.
Yes.
And to the extent you've diagnosed him with anything, it's based on your observations of him at the jail, as opposed to trying to diagnose where he was prior to the commission of the crime.
So my first evaluation, because it included a little bit of the background, because as I mentioned earlier that I got, in order for me to diagnose him as major depression, I needed history prior, because I saw him on the 3rd, which is 2 or 3 days after the incident.
Yes.
So a little bit before
Okay, and that was based on his self-reporting,
his self.
right? You didn't have other evidence, you hadn't reviewed his writings or anything he did prior to the crime.
No.
You asked him, had you been
Yes.
experiencing this, and when
Yes.
did it start?
Yes.
I have nothing for you.
Thank you. Defense, redirect. Sure.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any reason why this witness should not be excused?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. With that being said, doctor, thank you for being here. You may step down. Please don't discuss your testimony with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, this is a good time to take a break.
Okay, so that was fast. So that was part 9 of Ethan Crumbley's Miller hearing. So, like I said at the beginning, if you have not seen the other 8, you really want to. There is so much information in these Miller hearings that it's almost like you're looking at something totally different. His information was not in Jennifer Crumbley's trial, and I doubt it'll be in James. Maybe, but I'm not thinking it's likely. So if you watch these, you will get a really good idea as to why these parents ended up on trial. You know, let me know what you think. Take a look at them and let me know your thoughts. So guys, thank you ever so much for spending the time with me. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. Make sure you hit that bell, because I am doing lives relatively random as the news comes in. So with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.